Welcome to the Psychology and Physical Training channel. Ever wondered why a tall tower doesn't seem to shrink as you move away from it? Well, that's the magic of perceptual constancies at work. Perceptual constancies are vital in our visual perception, allowing us to recognize that an object remains the same, even when our perception of the object changes. Think of it like this. It's the brain's way of keeping things consistent for us, providing a stable interpretation of the world around us, despite the ever-changing information hitting our eyes. There are four main types of perceptual constancies to understand: size, shape, brightness, and color. Size constancy keeps objects the same size in our minds no matter how far away they are. Shape constancy ensures objects retain their shape, regardless of the angle we view them from. Brightness and color constancy maintain an object's brightness and color, despite changes in lighting or environment. So perceptual constancies help us perceive the environment in a stable and consistent way. Size and shape constancy. Let's delve deeper into size and shape constancy, shall we? To navigate our world, we rely on our perception to provide a constant, consistent image. Two key mechanisms that enable this are size and shape constancy. Size constancy is a psychological mechanism that allows us to perceive an object as having a constant size, regardless of how close or far away it is from us. To understand this, consider an airplane. As it moves away from us, the image it casts on our retina becomes smaller. However, we don't perceive the airplane as shrinking. Our mind understands the concept of distance and adjusts our perception accordingly. This is size constancy in action. On the other hand, shape constancy allows us to perceive an object as maintaining its shape, regardless of the angle from which we view it. Imagine seeing a door swing open. The image of the door on our retina changes shape as the angle changes, from a rectangle when closed to a thin, oblique line when almost fully open. But we don't perceive the door as changing its shape in reality. We understand that it's still a rectangle, just seen from a different perspective. This is shape constancy at work. Both of these perceptual constancies work in harmony to provide a stable perception of our environment. Without size constancy, an object moving towards us could be misinterpreted as growing in size, leading to unnecessary panic. Without shape constancy, we'd be in a constant state of confusion as objects would appear to morph shape as we change our viewing angle. These constancies also help us to make sense of the world in a more efficient way. Our brain doesn't need to process every single change in the retinal image. Instead, it applies these constancies to provide a streamlined and consistent interpretation of the world. In a nutshell, size and shape constancy are part of the complex machinery of our perception. They act as our brain's automatic autocorrect, ensuring that our perception of the world remains stable and consistent, regardless of changes in our viewpoint or distance from objects. Size and shape constancy play a vital role in our perception of the world around us. Brightness and color constancy. Bright and colorful, let's explore brightness and color constancy. Our world is a vibrant mix of shades and hues, and yet, despite changes in lighting, we perceive colors and brightness consistently. This is due to two psychological phenomena known as brightness constancy and color constancy. First, let's delve into brightness constancy. This is our ability to perceive an object as having the same level of brightness, even if the lighting conditions around it change. Picture a white shirt hanging on a clothesline. Even as the sun dips below the horizon and the world is bathed in the soft glow of twilight, your brain still recognizes the shirt as white, not gray. This is brightness constancy at work. It allows us to navigate our world without being confused by changes in illumination. Now let's turn our attention to color constancy. This is a similar concept, but instead of brightness, it relates to the way we perceive colors. Let's use the example of a red apple. Whether you see it under the bright noon sun or in the dim light of a candle, the apple appears red. This is because our brains adjust the way we perceive colors based on the lighting conditions around us. This phenomenon, known as color constancy, ensures that the colors we see in the world remain consistent. So why are these two concepts important? Well, consider for a moment a world without brightness and color constancy. Every time the lighting changed, the colors and brightness of objects would appear to change too. It would be a confusing and disorienting place to live. Thankfully, our brains are equipped with the ability to maintain a stable perception of the world around us. Brightness and color constancy allow us to see a consistent and predictable world, no matter the lighting conditions. They help us recognize familiar objects and navigate our environment effectively. So, brightness and color constancy contribute to a consistent and stable perception of our environment. Depth perception and perception of movement. Now, let's dive into the amazing world of depth perception and perception of movement. Depth perception is what allows us to perceive the world in 3 dimensions, giving us the ability to judge distances. It's a bit like having a superpower, really. Imagine reaching for a cup of coffee. It seems simple, but your brain is actually performing complex calculations to determine just how far your hand needs to extend. That's depth perception in action. This ability is largely thanks to our binocular vision. Our eyes, set a few inches apart, each capture a slightly different image. Our brain then combines these images, creating a sense of depth. This is known as stereopsis. However, depth perception isn't solely reliant on binocular vision. There are monocular cues too, such as shadows, texture gradients, and perspective, which can give us a sense of depth even with one eye closed. But what about perception of movement? This is another crucial part of how we interact with the world. It allows us to perceive whether objects are moving or stationary. For example, when you're watching a bird fly across the sky, your brain is recognizing the bird's change in position over time, helping you perceive its movement. Interestingly, our perception of movement isn't always accurate. Have you ever experienced the sensation of movement while sitting in a stationary car, just because the car next to you started to move? That's called the motion after effect, a fascinating quirk of our perception of movement. Both depth perception and perception of movement are critical to our everyday lives. They help us navigate complex environments, engage in physical activities, and even enjoy simple pleasures like watching a movie or playing catch. So, the next time you reach for a cup of coffee or watch a bird soaring across the sky, take a moment to appreciate the intricate work your brain is doing. It's a testament to the marvels of human perception. Depth perception and perception of movement enhance our ability to interact with our environment. Perceptual distortions, illusions, and hallucinations. Ever seen something that wasn't really there? Let's talk about perceptual distortions. These distortions occur when our brain misinterprets the information it receives, leading to a skewed perception of reality. Within this realm of perceptual distortions, we find 2 key players: illusions and hallucinations. First, let's dive into illusions. These are misinterpretations of actual external stimuli. Think of a classic example, the mirage. You're driving down a long, hot road, and up ahead it looks like there's a pool of water on the asphalt. But as you get closer, it vanishes. That's an optical illusion, a trick of light and heat waves that makes you believe there's water where there isn't. Illusions are all about context and interpretation. They show us that our perception of the world isn't a simple mirror reflection of reality, but a construction built by our brain. Now let's explore hallucinations. These are perceptions in the absence of external stimuli. Unlike illusions, hallucinations don't rely on an external reality to exist. They're entirely produced by our minds. For instance, people with certain mental health conditions may hear voices or see things that aren't there. But it's not just about mental health. Extreme fatigue, sensory deprivation, or certain substances can also induce hallucinations. They show us how powerful and autonomous our brain can be, creating an entire perceptual experience without any input from the outside world. But why does this matter? Well, understanding these perceptual distortions can provide insight into how our brains process information and how this processing can sometimes go awry. It can also help us empathize with those who experience these distortions on a regular basis, such as individuals with certain mental health conditions. Perceptual distortions show us that perception can sometimes be tricked, leading to fascinating and sometimes confusing experiences. So, what does all this mean for our understanding of perception? Well, the journey we've taken today through the realms of perceptual constancies, depth perception, perception of movement, and perceptual distortions has allowed us to grasp the intricacies of how we perceive the world around us. Perceptual constancies, such as size, shape, brightness, and color, act as our mind's steadfast anchors, enabling us to perceive a consistent and stable world, despite the ever-changing sensory information. Meanwhile, depth perception and perception of movement equip us with the ability to navigate and interact effectively within our environment. And let's not forget the fascinating world of perceptual distortions. Illusions and hallucinations remind us that our perception can sometimes trick us, revealing the malleable and subjective nature of our reality. These elements all weave together to form the rich tapestry of our perceptual experiences. Remember, perception is not just about seeing the world, it's about understanding it. And if you like this video, do not forget to subscribe to the Psychology and Physical Training channel for more videos. Thanks for watching.